Yeah. Okay, let's call the meeting to order and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Councillor Peterson,
Here.
Councillor Geisler, here. Nelson,
Here.
Councillor Hoffman,
Here. Announcements. Do any councilors have announcements they'd like to make? Hearing none, we will move on. We have no public hearing. We will have two separate points of public discussion. One of general public discussion near the beginning of the meeting, and each item that has the possibility of passing this evening will have a point of public discussion during that item. Communications, Mr. Mulder?
we included the report from the archery deer season. I know that's kind of an item of interest each year for the council and mayor. So if there's any other items on the list that you want, please let us know.
Thank you. And next we will pass by presentations and move on to general public discussions. This is the time that individuals can address the council about items not on the agenda. We ask that you limit your time to 3 minutes per person. If there's anyone that wishes to speak on public discussion, please step forward to the podium or announce yourself online with your name and address.
Hello, I'm Jay Zerton, 571 Martin Road. I'm here to discuss my proposed planned unit development at Keynes Creek. It initially had a road going through to Johnson Road. And due to the condition of Johnson Road and other factors, I've determined that after doing an honest assessment of all the pluses and minuses of bringing that road through, I would prefer not to bring the road to Johnson Road. I would prefer to end in a hammerhead rather than bringing the road through to Johnson. I understand that some language in the statutes should allow me to do that currently, and discussing said statutes later in the meeting. I would also ask that if you do change statute language, that you would not ask an applicant to try to hit a moving target by changing language in statutes after application has been made. So those are just my 2 points. I will be moving forward, presenting my plan without the road going to Johnson Road. And I would ask that you certainly consider statute language about projects that are currently in gear. And I guess that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Jay, if I may ask a question, I know we've talked about the trailhead there to access to that. Is that still something that is of interest?
Oh, absolutely. Part of the project, no matter what, I have to run the water main back to the Johnson Road. So there will be excavation and all that there. And I would certainly, it would make sense to leave a trail there to connect Johnson Road to, but not necessarily a road.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak under public discussion, either in chambers or online? If so, please state your name and address for the record. Hearing none, we will close public discussion and move on to the consent agenda. Do we have a motion for the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Councillor Peterson, second by Councillor Nelson. Roll call, please.
Councillor Geisler.
Aye.
Councillor Nelson.
Aye.
Hochschild.
Aye.
Councillor Nelson. Excuse me, Peterson.
Aye again.
Mayor Boucher.
Aye.
It's a test.
Motion passes. Motion to appoint Dante Tomasoni to the Planning and Zoning Commission for a 3-year term effective immediately. Do we have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Motion by Councillor Hochschild, second by Councillor Geisler. Councillor Geisler and I interviewed Mr. Thomasoni and the other candidates. And we felt that he's very highly qualified for this type of position, and we were impressed. John?
I just second all of that and concur with that. I also got an email from the other gentleman interviewed, and it almost made it sound like he had not
He's
received.
been contacted.
He
since
has,
then.
he has been, okay. All right. That's it. No, otherwise, yeah, looking forward to working with.
Was there a concern of something?
He sent an email that he just the email sounded like he hadn't heard from the city that he was not selected.
And he hadn't at that point, but he had.
So, thank you.
Any other discussion from council? And do we have any public input on this appointment? If so, please state your name and address for the record. Is there any public input on the appointment to the Planning and Zoning Commission? With no public input, could we have a roll call?
Councillor,
Aye.
Councillor Hochschild.
Aye.
Councillor Peterson.
Aye.
Councillor Geisler.
Aye.
Mayor Boucher.
Aye. Ordinances, second reading of ordinance 2022-02. An ordinance of the city of Hermantown, Minnesota, amending the city code, section 210, council to increase the reimbursement for phone and internet stipend of the mayor and council members. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Councilor Peterson, second by Councilor Geisler and Mr. Mulder.
So we started the conversation about potentially changing the salary. That we would just change the reimbursement for phone and stipend, or phone and internet stipend, excuse me.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or comments from council?
I think just clarification point, this is to begin effective January 1st
2020.
of 2023.
Thank you. Any other comments? Any public input on this? If so, please state your name and address for the record. Is there any public input on ordinance 2022-02? Hearing no public input, could we have a roll call?
Councillor Hochschild.
Aye.
Councillor Peterson.
Aye.
Councillor Geisler.
Aye.
Councillor Nelson.
Aye.
Mayor Boucher.
Aye. Ordinance 2022-03. This is a first reading for an ordinance amending Chapter 5 alcoholic beverages of the Hermantown City Code by modifying the rules governing the perimeter of the exterior licensed space. With that first reading, we'll move on to another first reading of ordinance 2022-04, an ordinance amending section 1020 design standards of the Hermantown City Code. Those both will be brought up at our next meeting, I believe.
Mr. Mayor, I guess just a point for clarification, our Mr. Zierden, who spoke during the earlier public discussion, made reference to this changing of the ordinance regarding cul-de-sacs. And that is a first reading, so will be voted on at the next meeting and public discussion at that time.
Thank you. Any other input from council? Resolutions, resolution 2022-30, resolution approving an amendment to the city handbook regarding a sewer availability policy. Do we have a motion?
I will motion to approve, and noting the change in the fee for the residential to instead of the recommended $10,000 be reduced down to the $5,000, leaving the multi-unit at the same as recommended by staff.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Councilor Peters, second by Councilor Hochschild. Mr. Mulder.
So this is a policy is recommended to the city council regarding the charge to individuals who want to connect to sewer who have not been previously assessed or did not buy their lot as part of a platted where the infrastructure was built as part of the plat. So this would then charge those individuals $5,000 to connect, and then we would also have connection fees to the sewer trunk line increases from 2,500 to 5,000. That happened fairly infrequently. We actually discourage it, but that would increase from 25 to 5,000. There's also availability policy for sewer customers that we create at various times. We did one back in 2018, and we did two or three of them as part of the Section 24 as well. But it sets kind of parameters on how those assessments are made or availability charges are set.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or comments from council?
I would just clarify during our discussion about the couple of flag lots that have been recently split. Does this apply to them or not? You know, I know we talked about that.
Since this is happening after.
Right. Right.
I don't think it would be right to apply this to things that have been split already.
Yeah, I agree.
This is going forward.
Gunnar, what's your opinion on that?
I understand a lot that it's going to be difficult to do because at what point in time do you go back and say, when did it not apply? So you created a flag lot last year, but it did not apply. A lot was created 20 years ago. Does it apply? Or does it apply only to new lots that are created going forward? So no lot is charged. Is that what you're saying?
That's where I was, that's the confusion to me, I guess.
Or is it that we have a responsibility to communicate this to those certain circumstances? And I don't, many of that would be outside of the recent flag lots that we would, I don't understand the volume of that, I guess, as to how many lots that would entail. If we do include this, I just think it would need to be a communication to them to let them know that in the event that is sold and connect.
Have they, building permits might be a question we want to ask
Maybe.
before we decide that. They've had the lot not applied for the permits or anything. I would be more comfortable with sharing this information with them now.
Exempt certain class of flag lots or some of those. So it's like changing the fee from $50 to $100. The new fee will apply. So that's
So to Gloria's point, is this something that we could apply based on the, submission of
Building permit?
Receipt of
building
application.
permit, or what point would that make? Does that make, because to me that's logical, but internally, is that logical?
If they haven't connected, then it would apply. If they have connected, you wouldn't go back and
Right,
try to connect.
Right.
exactly.
The issue that you're getting at, though, is within the last 2 years, 2 flag lots were created on Maple Grove.
And Uggstead as well.
And then you also created a subdivision on Arrowhead Road that, in effect, created 3 lots, 5 lots, and 1. The way that it's right now, it applies to those lots. The person split them, not understanding that was the case. You'll get pushback on that individual because that individual will push back. If that is a concern, then we need to sit through and talk through what those issues are.
And those lots are not sold yet, right?
building permits haven't been applied for.
No permit.
The lots have been created. I don't know the status of the state of those lots. No homes have been built on it.
But who purchased that will be that,
Mhm.
because he's, as a developer, he's not in infrastructure, so it will be the responsibility of the purchaser of that lot.
That's how I would interpret it.
Or whoever builds it.
Yeah. Could be,
Right. Which at that time is either an individual or a developer that's building individual homes, and that charge will get carried forward, I would imagine. In the
developer that bought that piece of property, proved it down LeVay.
That's the sewer extension in that, doesn't it?
No, that could be serving off of LeVay.
If you're speaking to the twin home development on Lake and Hermantown Road,
No, that's who Mr. Anderson came and talked to. It was part of the Grouse Ridge development.
oh, the twin home that you're speaking, single twin home,
It's part of the Grouse Ridge, but it'll be fed off of LeVay.
Lake.
The utilities will be, to me, that would be another one where they'd have to pay the $5,000 each. And again, it's just something that they weren't made aware of, and that's like a developer-driven project. So. But
Right. You have to pay 5,000.
that'd be 5,000 each there.
Yes, we have generic language in all the approvals that they're responsible for all applicable either assessment or connection fees associated with the project. It does not identify a dollar figure.
Nor does it say as of such and such a date.
No, it does not. This is responsible for all applicable, yes.
So there are a handful. Shouldn't Mr. Miners or do on Uggstead as well? So I mean, there's a good 5 or 6 lots in the past year even.
So from my understanding, if a developer or somebody comes in to apply for a building permit, burning permit, you know, is there a list of items that we basically go through that we will be able to kind of notify them of this and the dollar amount now? I mean, is just as part of a checklist type process to make sure that this doesn't come as a surprise? Just how are we communicating? I guess is really my question.
Right now, traditionally you work with the building department and the utility department when it comes to hookups, et cetera. And to date, I'm notified that these are the applicable fees. Once again, we spoke about the 800 and there's a cap 940. Traditionally the sewer is 850, and then the water is another approximately $800. That's standard language that we give to builders as well as this in the utility department that way. So what we need to do is update that language to both those departments, so when permits come in from that end, that they're able to charge correctly.
In the event there's no, if there's a flag lot that's being created and there's no sanitary stub there, there would just be another line item that we would notify them is if there's no, no sanitary stub, there will be a fee of X for that. It should be pretty easy just to add that to the list of costs that we already have.
Well, and especially to a developer who's looking at multi-unit, that, because that can be a considerable cost. So just making sure that we're being thoughtful on how we're communicating that on the front end. So we're never giving it as a surprise when somebody's coming in for that permit.
Well, when they come in for the permit, that's when they would be provided by, all the current rates, prices and policies. So it seems.
Do they pay that? Do they pay for hookup fees at the time of the building permit?
The best of my knowledge is.
So this was just another fee that they would pay at the building permit time. Planning permit.
Kathy.
Yeah. Availability fee.
Because the amount is so much larger. Is that required? Will this be required to be paid upfront like that at the time of the permit?
Yes.
Yeah, it's part of the permit fees and process. I mean, yeah, I would say it would be yes.
Any other comments or concerns from council?
So it's gonna be from 24.
For any
I
permit?
think it's from the date it's published.
Yeah, okay,
Would be from today because this is not an ordinance.
Okay.
okay.
Anything else? Is there any public input on this matter? Any public input on resolution 2022-30? If so, please state your name and address for the record. Is there any public input on resolution 2022-30? With no public input, I'd ask for a roll call.
Councillor Geisler,
Aye.
Councillor Nelson,
Aye.
Councillor Housechild,
Aye.
Councillor Peterson,
Aye.
Mayor Boucher.
Aye. Resolution 2022-34. Resolution authorizing and directing mayor and city clerk to execute an acceptance of easement agreement to the city of Hermantown from Paul and Sarah Fitzgerald for the Uggstead Road and Arrowhead Road improvement.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion by Councillor Nelson, second by Councillor Geisler. And Mr. Mulder, I believe this is a temporary easement.
This is part of, yeah, this is part of the Uggstead Road improvement. It's a temporary easement only.
So the easement reverts back to the landowner when the project's closed.
Correct.
Anything else, Mr. Mulder?
And it expires December 31st, 2024.
Any questions or comments from council? Hearing none, is there any public input on resolution 2022-34? If so, state your name and address for the record. Is there any public input on the resolution under consideration? We'll close the public input and ask for a roll call.
Councillor.
Aye.
Councillor Housechild, Councillor Peterson.
Aye.
Councillor Geisler,
Aye.
Mayor Boucher.
Aye. Resolution 2022-35, resolution awarding contract for 2023 Western Star 47X chassis in the amount of $135,252 plus applicable taxes and fees.
Motion to approve?
Second?
Motion by Councilor Peterson, second by Councilor Nelson. Mr. Mulder.
Paul can do this more directly, but this is for the purchase of a new truck.
Good evening, thank you, Mayor and Council. This we're asking to purchase the chassis for a new plow truck. We order it now, it'll be here delivered by the end of the year. And then the actual plow outfit will happen in 2023, kind of split the cost over 2 years. It'll give us an additional plow truck, so we'll have 3 trucks identically the same, all with prying capability, all with the same plowing capabilities, to try to do a better job throughout the community.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from council?
We keep the old one.
We will sell that one upon receipt of the new one, but we can't do that until we have that new truck here.
I mean, upon completion of the new one.
Yeah, when it's all together.
Thank you. Anything else from council? With nothing, we'd move to public input. Is there any public input on this resolution? If so, state your name and address for the record. Is there any public input on resolution 2022-35? Roll call, please.
Councillor Housechild,
Aye.
Councillor Peterson,
Aye.
Councillor Geisler,
Aye.
Councillor Nelson,
Aye.
Mayor Boucher.
Aye. 2002-36, a resolution for a grant to the Hermantown Youth Soccer Association for reimbursement for irrigation performed on the soccer fields. Do we have a
Motion to approve with recommendation to change the amount, the percentage, and just have it be a flat rate of $3,000.
Second.
We have a motion by Councillor Peterson, second by Councillor Geisler, that drops the percentage out of the language written item we have on our agenda. Mr. Mulder?
Eric Johnson can speak.
Mr. Johnson?
Great, thank you. As you had mentioned, this is a $3,000 grant then to Hermantown Youth Soccer Association to offset water usage for the irrigation over at Stebner Park.
Thank you. Any questions, comments from council?
Just one note, this came as a request due to our agreement with Hermantown Amateur Hockey Association, which we currently have a $2,000 credit that we apply. I would like to review that and change that so that we have consistency amongst both the organizations with the same amount, flat amount. So we are just treating them the same from a management standpoint, from internally, it's just makes sense for us to do that. So if we could do that, to have that reviewed and discussed at our next meeting.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from council? Is there any public input on resolution 2022-36? If so, please state your name and address. Is there any public input on this resolution? We have no public input, so we'll move to a roll call.
Councillor Peterson,
Aye.
Councillor Geisler, Councillor Nelson,
Aye.
Councillor Housechild,
Aye.
Mayor Boucher.
Aye. Next, we have a motion to move to closed session to discuss the evaluation performance of the city administrator. Do we have a motion?
Motion to move to closed.
Second.
Second motion by Councillor Peterson, second by Councillor Housechild. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.